Welcome to Breaking News to Trading Moves. We're looking at some material today about a pretty notable technology policy announcement and how the market's reacting.
That's right. Our goal here is, well, to quickly get a handle on the immediate fallout from this headline, see who might gain from this, and which companies might face some headwinds.
Okay, so the news is all about NVIDIA's next-gen chips, the Blackwell series. We've got details here on CEO Jensen Huang stating there are, well, no active plans, no discussions really, to ship these really advanced AI chips to China.
And that's directly because of U.S. policy, aiming to keep the most powerful computing tech available primarily domestically.
Right. So this policy basically directs where this cutting-edge compute power goes. And changing that supply allocation, well, it quickly sorts the market, doesn't it?
It really does. It creates winners and losers almost immediately. We've broken it down, basically looking at three main groups seen as winners and three groups likely facing some limitations.
All right, let's dive into the winners first. The companies set to benefit from keeping the supply closer to home. The first group mentioned is the U.S. hyperscalers, the big AI cloud companies. What's the logic there?
Well, it boils down to allocation. If you restrict sales of Blackwell chips to China, then naturally more of that supply becomes available in the U.S.
Okay.
So for these cloud giants, the ones building out enormous AI data centers, it means potentially better and maybe more importantly, faster access to these GPUs, which are incredibly hard to get right now.
Better access.
Yeah.
That helps their AI infrastructure plans.
Exactly. It directly supports their rollouts, getting those AI models trained and deployed faster, potentially helps their margins too, if supply is less constrained for them.
Makes sense. And who are we talking about specifically here, the key players?
The material points to the big ones. Microsoft, that's MSFT, Alphabet, which is GOOGL, and Amazon, AMZN.
Right, the cloud titans. Okay, moving on to the second group of beneficiaries, AI server builders and integrators.
Yeah, this follows logically. Since the actual Blackwell systems we're talking, the GB200 class systems here are being prioritized domestically.
These are the big wax scale units, right? Not just individual chips.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Very complex systems. So building and integrating these directs a lot of high-value work, those integration orders, toward U.S. vendors who specialize in putting these massive, complicated racks together.
Okay, so the assembly and setup work stays domestic too. And the companies named are?
Supermicro, ticker SMCI, and Dell Technologies, DELL. They're positioned to capture that integration revenue.
Got it. SMCI and DELL. Okay, the final winner category. This one involves alternative accelerators and CPUs. Seems like this is about filling the gap left by the restrictions.
That's exactly it. Where NVIDIA's top chips can't be sold, well, buyers will naturally look for other options.
So who steps in?
Well, the material notes that Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, that's ticker AMD, they've apparently received some export licenses for their MI308 chips to China.
So maybe not the absolute cutting edge like Blackwell, but still powerful chips getting through.
Right. It's a different tier, perhaps, but it gives AMD an opening in China, where NVIDIA is currently blocked with its latest generation. Separately, you've got Intel, INTC.
Intel, how do they benefit?
It's more about diversification, particularly in the U.S. market. Hyperscalers don't want to rely on just one supplier for everything. So the general push for, spreading the risk, using different types of chips, including Intel CPUs and potentially their upcoming accelerators, that helps INTC.
Okay, that covers the potential winners. U.S. cloud giants, the server integrators, and then the alternative chip providers like AMD and Intel. Now let's look at the other side of the coin. The groups facing, let's say, challenges or lost opportunities.
Right, the flip side.
First up, U.S. data center component suppliers with high exposure to the China market.
Yeah.
What's the issue for them?
The core problem is Beijing's reaction. They're pushing back against U.S. restrictions by, trying to curb the use of foreign AI chips, especially in state-funded projects.
A substitution effect.
Exactly. So this reduces the demand for related U.S. components, think networking gear, certain silicon that would normally go into those Chinese data centers.
Okay, so less demand from China for these specific parts. Which companies are mentioned here?
The ones highlighted are Marvell Technology, MRVL, and Broadcom, AVGO. Their sales into that specific segment in China could face pressure.
MRVL and AVGO. Okay, now the next group is NVIDIA itself, ticker NVDE. That seems counterintuitive. They make the chips everyone wants. How are they on the losers list?
Yeah, it's not about their current dominance. It's about future growth potential. or rather, a limit on it.
How so?
The analysis is pretty clear. Blackwell isn't approved for China. Management confirms no active talks for approval. China is a huge market for data centers.
Right.
So by basically taking that market off the table for their most advanced, highest margin product, it caps their potential future revenue from China compared to a world where they could sell Blackwell there. It limits their total addressable market, their upside.
So it's not that they're losing money now, but the potential for future growth in that specific large market is constrained by this policy.
Precisely. It puts a ceiling on that part of their growth story.
Okay, that makes sense. And the final group facing headwinds. U.S. semi-equipment companies with, again, China sensitivity. These are the tool makers.
Yes, the companies that manufacture the incredibly complex machinery needed to actually make the chips.
Applied Materials and Lam Research.
Those are the names mentioned. ANAT and LRCX. The issue for them is, well, twofold. Tighter geopolitics generally makes things uncertain. Plus, the risk that China accelerates its own domestic chip-making efforts, substitution again, could reduce the long-term demand for U.S. tools specifically tied to expanding China's AI data center capacity.
Even if demand for tools for U.S. factories is strong.
Correct. It specifically dampens the outlook for equipment sales destined for that part of the Chinese market, the advanced AI build-out.
Okay, so AMAT and LRCX potentially face constraints there.
So what we're seeing is a clear sorting happening, driven by policy. You've got support for domestic growth in the U.S. cloud, infrastructure builders balanced against, well, constraints for companies reliant on high-tech exports to China.
Yeah, it really illustrates how policy can draw lines in the market. So for you, the listener, the key thing to grasp is how government decisions create these distinct paths for investment and growth. It rewards companies aligned with domestic priorities.
And presents challenges for those whose market access gets restricted by geopolitics. It's regulation translating pretty directly into market dynamics.
Definitely. And before we wrap up, here's something to chew on. If the U.S. does keep prioritizing domestic access to the most advanced chips, making it harder for China to buy them.
Yeah. How might that actually speed up China's own efforts? They're pushed to develop fully homegrown alternatives. They're already working on it, obviously, but does this add urgency? Does it accelerate their timeline to close the performance gap?
Something to keep an eye on as this all plays out.
Worth watching.
Okay. That's our look at this specific development. Just a reminder for everyone listening, this is not financial advice. We're not giving buy or sell recommendations here.
Absolutely not. This is purely opinion based on the material we reviewed.
Thanks for joining us on Breaking News to Trading Moves.